Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Getting Started session. Today, we're going to talk about the TradeStation desktop, and we're going to do that from a very high level just to show you where things are, how to get started, and how to do what you do best, which is trading the markets without having to worry about, the technicalities of a trading software. So the title of today's presentation is Discover TradeStation Desktop's Core Features. And I want to make an emphasis on desktop because TradeStation does offer three different platforms on which you can trade. You can trade on the desktop, which is our flagship product, and that's the one you have to download and install on your computer. But we also offer a web trading platform and also a mobile experience. What we do here every Wednesday um, is rotate all the different trading platforms that we offer. And that way you get exposure to all of them. If you're looking for education on a particular trading platform, Manolo is going to share the link to where those recordings are so that you can watch, a prior presentation. But also check, our events calendar for upcoming events on maybe a topic or a particular platform that you're looking to receive education on. So just keep an eye on that. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We are joined by my colleague, Manolo. Manolo is going to be moderating the chat. So anything that you want to, ask, you're welcome to ask right there in the chat. And Manolo and I will, make sure that we address your questions and that everything is clear in this presentation. I did not introduce myself, so my name is Jesus Nava. I am the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. For me, it's always a pleasure to talk about TradeStation and to leave you guys with something that is practical that you can use on our trading platforms. Let's keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I use in this presentation is going to be for educational purposes. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, active trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. The link right there on the top, www.tradestation.com/important-information, provides more details on those disclosures. Manolo has been kind enough to share that link also here in the chat. And just be aware of the product that you're trading, whether it's futures or options. We have the proper disclosures right there at the bottom in case you'd like to read about the risks of trading them. So thank you, guys and gals, for being here. Let's go ahead and get started in our presentation. Again, the chat is open. You're welcome to submit any questions. I'll be glancing over to the chat once in a while to make sure that I'm addressing those questions as we go along. When you first install TradeStation, this is what it looks like. We open up in a workspace that we titled TradeStation Today. There's some very cool information here. For example, over here on the left-hand side, if you haven't noticed, there is a little drop-down that has a series of videos that we've created on the TradeStation desktop. A lot of times we want something short, to the point, and quick. So that's the reason why we created these videos. They are anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. So they're pretty short in length. And they introduce features of the TradeStation desktop. We are in the process of completing the series. Right now, you see 11 videos. There's going to be a total of 18. So always come back here and check the drop down to make sure that you've watched all the videos. By the way, all the videos that are here are also uploaded to the TradeStation YouTube channel. So if you don't have a link, Manolo, that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you. Do we have a link to the playlist that has all the videos of desktop? If you have that handy, it'd be great to provide it here so that you don't have to go to TradeStation Today to access the videos. You can just go to a YouTube playlist to get access to these videos as well. All right. If you don't have TradeStation Today, because I know that sometimes you close it and then you cannot find where it is. It's not listed with all the different built-in workspace that are on TradeStation. For TradeStation Today, you're going to have to come here to the top on apps and click on TS Today. There's a little button right here on the top menu that gives you access to this workspace, okay? Over here on the right-hand side, we also have upcoming events. If you want to just keep an eye on all the things that we are going to be educating on, please refer to TS Today. It's a great place to also register for those events. The events that you see here, by the way, on TradeStation Today are the same events that you would find if you go to the events page on TradeStation.com. Manolo, if you can share that events link also here in the chat so that we can have access to those. And if you title those links so that we know exactly which link takes us where, okay, that'll be very useful. Thank you so much. And right here at the bottom, we have the what's new. Sometimes we do automatic updates on TradeStation, so we want to make sure that everyone has the most recent version of TradeStation. If you're wondering what was fixed or what was added, right here, you can have that information. And over here at the bottom left, we have recommended and recent workspaces. Now, TradeStation comes packaged with workspaces that are examples. And if you're having some difficulty like getting started or getting some ideas on how to set up your applications, you can use the workspaces as a starting point. They're there for that reason, not because we are recommending them, although it's recommended workspaces, but these are pre-packaged workspaces that you can open up, see how they're built, maybe remove some of the applications you don't use, but you can use them as a starting point. So feel free to open any of those workspaces. Today, we're going to start workspaces from scratch. That's usually the way that I do my presentations on TradeStation, because I'm going to show you how to create things your own. And that way you're free to, customize your TradeStation platform in the way that fits your style. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Oh, by the way, here in the middle, we have a little box for social posts. Right now, we have a little bit of a technicality on updating these posts. But when fixed, you're going to have everything that we post on Twitter will also show up right here in the middle of the TS Today workspace. All right, great. So let's go ahead and open up a new workspace. I'm going to click here at the bottom left. The plus provides you an untitled workspace. A workspace is like a container. And inside this container, we're going to open up applications so that if we open up this container, we have access to all the applications that are in there. So that container needs to be saved. Right now it says untitled because I haven't saved it. It's just a brand new workspace. But as I add, new applications and I start configuring them, I would want to save it so that next time that I log into TradeStation, it's there, and anything that you worked on can be saved. So to save you some time, and just to make sure that you have the platform open with all the applications you need. I'm going to start off here with opening up a chart analysis. All right, notice that I went to apps and I clicked on chart analysis. I actually skipped that little part. In apps, you're going to find all the applications you can open up inside of TradeStation. My applications may be a little bit different than yours. I may have some custom applications that you don't have access to. So if you compare and you're missing any of the apps, it's probably because these are some custom apps that I was testing or I installed on my TradeStation. I probably don't use them either, So chart analysis is the one that provides you a chart. So make sure that if you want a chart analysis, you click here. You can open as many charts as you need. There's no limitation to the number of chart applications that you can have open. And you saw that I clicked on chart analysis and it opened up a chart. There's always going to be a symbol and a time frame already loaded on the chart. If this is the first time you click on chart analysis, I believe it's going to be Cisco and a 5-minute. Right now, I'm looking at a chart of Microsoft, because one of the nice things about TradeStation is that it remembers the last symbol that you were looking at, so that when you open up a new or a brand new workspace and you open up an application, it'll load the last symbol you were looking at. So that's pretty cool. So this is Microsoft on a 5-minute. So let me show you a couple things here in charting that are going to help you maneuver the chart. First of all, you have a scroll bar right here at the bottom. It allows you to move the chart left and right. So make sure that you're aware of that. You can also click on the candles and push them left and right. You can do that as well. If you click on the background and you push left and right, nothing will happen. Something will happen. When you click on the background and you hold, you get this data tips window, which is very useful when you want to know the details on a particular bar. If you want to know the opening, the high, the low, and the close, just click on the background, hold, you get this little window, which is called the data tips. And then you can just move it to any candle on which you want to get data on, right? Right over here on this candle, the opening price was 323.77. And I see the date. This is the August 15th, which is yesterday at 9:40 in the morning. So you get all those details on the data tips window by clicking on the background and holding. But if you click on the candles and you move left and right, you have that ability as well. If you're looking to move the chart up and down, you have to do one more thing. You have to come over here to the price scale and click and drag here to do some sort of a squeeze. I call it a squeeze because the bars kind of squeeze and get flatter. But you can do, if you click and drag down, it'll squeeze them. If you click and drag up, it'll expand them. So it has that effect. But once you have the price data pretty much detached from the scale, I can click on the candles and push them in any direction that I want. So if you're looking for that feature, just make sure that you come over here to the price and you do some squeezing or expanding so that we are on a free scale and we can move it around. Once you've moved things around and you've done your analysis and you want to go back to an automatic scale, bring your cursor towards the bottom. We have some overlay buttons here that have the increase and decrease the bar spacing. We also have some zooming and zoom out functionality, but this is the button that I'm looking for, which is a reset. This is reset scaling. I click on it and then I'm back to square one. So play around with moving the chart around, squeezing the price scale, dragging the charts, because at a certain point you're going to want to do it, and it's important to know where to activate it. Okay. The time frames, you have a little drop down up here. This menu or this drop down that you see, it's you cannot add things to it. A lot of times, I get asked, can I add my own time frame? For example, I use a 144 tick chart and I don't see it here in this drop down. Can I add it? No, this menu cannot be modified. However, it's a quick drop down for you to select things that you use, usually, like daily. If you don't find the things you use usually here in this drop down, you might as well not use it at all. What I recommend you do is you type in the time frame you want. TradeStation, excuse me. TradeStation is responsive to keyboard commands, and a lot of times all you need to do is type in a time frame that you need. For example, if I type the word weekly, excuse me, you're going to see that the command line shows up right there in the middle of the screen. The command line is like it's always listening to your keyboard entries, and as soon as you start typing, the command line will pop up in the middle of the screen. And you can see that inside the command line, I just typed in the word weekly, meaning that if I hit the enter key, I'll get a weekly chart of whatever symbol I have on the screen. This is a weekly chart of Microsoft. That command line can also be used to change the symbol. If I don't want to look at Microsoft, if I want to look at, let's say, Verizon, I type in VZ, hit enter, and then I'm looking at a weekly chart of Verizon. Just as easy as that. And if you want to go back to a minute time frame, all you need to do is use the abbreviation MIN. So let's go 5 space MIN, 5 MIN, enter. Now we are on a 5-minute chart. While you're in a minute chart, this is something really cool. While you're in a minute chart, you can just use a number and TradeStation will take that number as a time frame. So if I type in, let's say 120, notice the 120 right here inside the command line. I hit enter. I've just created a 120-minute chart on my TradeStation. When we started talking about time frames, I alluded to a 144 tick. Well, all you need to do is type in 144 space tick. You hit enter, and the TradeStation chart will build based on 144 tick. You can confirm by looking here at the top left corner, and you can see that it says 144 tick bar. Pretty cool, huh? So yes, I use the command line a lot. In fact, I very rarely go to the time frame dropdown because I think it's just easier for me just to type in the command that I want, whether it's changing the symbol, changing the time frame. I find that to be very useful. Okay, so let's go back here to a 5-minute of Verizon. Let me show you some drawing tools and some technical studies. Okay, drawings are all going to be here in this dropdown. So you have the more analytical drawings like Fibonacci, the Gann fans, the Andrews pitchfork. Those are ones that have more analytical value, and there's a ton of information on the web about how to interpret them. So we're not going to spend time here talking about them in detail, but some of the drawing tools here require 1, 2, or even 3 clicks. If I do a horizontal line, this is a very easy way for you to set up an alert. Let me show you what I mean by that. Oh, I'm not sure if I showed you this, but the up arrow and the down arrow key on the keyboard, again, back on the keyboard, you can see that I'm a fan of the keyboard, but up arrow and down arrow keys on the keyboard do this, what I'm showing you on the screen. They will expand and contract the chart if you want to see more details. So make sure that you try that on your TradeStation. I think it's going to save you a lot of aggravation. So I do have my cursor on horizontal line. Let's say that I'm looking at Verizon trading at 33.39. It seems like in the last few minutes, there's been a push down from 33.60 all the way to 33.35. Let's suppose that I'm monitoring the low of today. Now, the low of today, if I look over here on the status line, is 33.28. So let's suppose that I want to be notified if Verizon makes a newer low. So I'm going to click here and try to position my horizontal line at 33.28. I'm doing that by clicking and dragging, I'm clicking, holding, and dragging. That way I can see the price and I can see where it's going to be dropped. So now I'm here at 33.28 and I release my horizontal line and there it is. Not only do I have a line here at 33.28, I've also modified the style. If you use horizontal lines in your TradeStation, they probably have a different color and a different font. Just double click on the line and you can change the style of the line, the thickness, the color, whatever you want to do on that line. But here on the same customized horizontal line dialog, I can go to the alerts and enable the alert. That means that I can just draw any horizontal line on my chart and turn on the alert and make it hot so that as soon as the price activity touches it, then I get alerted. And I'm going to do one more thing here. Instead of leaving it on breakout intra bar means that it has to touch the price. Because, I mean, technically, price activity can jump and have such a huge jump that creates a gap and doesn't even touch my line. Well, if I want to be alerted in that scenario where it just jumps the line and doesn't touch it, I need to choose this behavior that's called breakout inter bar. So if it creates an inter bar scenario where the line just falls in between bars and it's not being touched, I still want to be alerted. I'm going to click OK, and that's it. I have my alert set up here for Verizon. I do need to leave the chart on this symbol because if I change the symbol to, let's say, Microsoft, then the alert is not active anymore. It goes away. The drawing tools that we draw are specific to the symbol on the chart. So if I go back to Verizon, the chart comes back. It does remember the drawings that you drew on the symbol, but just be aware that when you draw something on the chart, it's specific to that symbol. And if you want to be alerted on something, you have to leave it there. I can change the time frame. I can say, give me a 30-minute chart instead, and I can still see the line. You can even do a daily chart, and the line is still there. So you can change the time frame, and the alert is still going to be enabled, and you can be notified when it happens. But just be aware of those little things when you're setting up alerts on your TradeStation. Okay, so very simple way of setting up an alert. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about, let's do a trend line so you can see some of the components of the trend line. Let me go here to a daily chart. Okay, on a daily chart, let me go ahead and connect this high with this high up here. I'm going to go to drawing, trend line. And one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go to drawing. I did not want to do that. Drawing. Before clicking on trend line, I'm going to click on snap mode. Snap mode is a nice feature because if you're drawing things on the chart and you know that you want to attach to the highest high or the lowest low on a particular candle, snap mode is going to help you do that because the clicking precision is not as good as one would expect. Sometimes you're clicking on a particular point and it winds up, being a different price. So if I want to create a trend line that attaches to this high, sometimes turning on snap mode will make it easier. So I just turned it on. You can see that it's highlighted right here at the bottom. I'm going to come over here to trend line, and I don't really have to be right on top of that high. I can move away from the candle, and if I click, notice that it automatically attaches to that high. So it makes it very simple. And then I'm just going to select this other high. And that's my trend line right there. Maybe I'm drawing that trend line because I'm looking for the price activity to cross over. Not a very robust trend line because it's only being touched on 2 points, but it's okay. I can double click on that line, same way that I did on that horizontal, go to alerts and enable the alert. So now if the price activity crosses over that trend line, I'm going to be alerted. So experiment is what I'm trying to say. You have a drawing menu with so many different tools. You click on them. Some will require 1 click, like the horizontal. The trend line will require 2 clicks. You have the first price, then you have the ending price, and you have to click twice for the trend line to go on. Okay. If you guys have any questions, please let me know right here in the chat. Sometimes I tend to go a little bit fast, but I want to make sure that I provide you a little bit of everything. So I'm going to go here to the studies. And studies, I'm just going to use one study because most of the studies inside of TradeStation are applied in the same way. I'm going to go here to studies and add study. Here's where you find dozens and dozens of different studies that you can apply on the TradeStation platform. I'm going to start off with a moving average 2-line. This is one that shows up on your TradeStation. Let's go ahead and click OK to that. When you apply a study on a TradeStation chart, it automatically goes on the screen, just like here. I didn't have to supply parameters because every study has built-in parameters. But many times you want to customize those, or at least know how many periods are being used in that average. Well, those are visible right here on the top on the status line. It's using the close, 9, and 18, but I can double click on the lines and go to the inputs just to be a little bit more or have access to the place where I can modify them. If I was looking more for a 30 period versus a 60 period, I can make those changes right here in the inputs. So think of inputs as a way for you to customize analysis techniques. And the way that you customize them, well, the way that I just showed you is double clicking on its line. If you don't like double clicking on the line because you find that it's not so precise, you can go to studies and click on edit studies. It takes you to the right same dialog. I'm going to click OK to this. I notice how the moving averages changed to 30 and 60. Now I have a different calculation. Now I don't have as many crossovers. But then again, this allows you to use the same study on different chart analysis windows and set them to different time frames. Very flexible, very customizable. When I double click on the lines, I went into the inputs, but you can change the style, you can change the color. One thing that I do, though, is turn on the alerts. Because a lot of times when you insert a study on a chart, what you want to do is, or when you do want to get alerted if the study is triggering a signal. Most studies in TradeStation have built-in programmed alert, and all you need to do is enable it. In a moving average cross type of study, what we're looking for is for the lines to cross, and that's what the alert is programmed to do on a moving average 2 lines indicator. Is programmed to notify you when the 2 lines cross, but it's only going to do that if you come here to alerts and enable alert. Alerts are turned off by default, so you literally have to come in here and turn it on. You can modify how you want to be alerted. You can also change your notification preferences, like the sound or everything. You can do it here, so make sure that you explore all the different settings. But by enabling the alert and clicking OK, though that indicator is now monitoring the conditions, and as soon as they cross the 2 lines, I'm talking about the 2 moving averages, as soon as they cross, they'll trigger an alert based on my preferences. Ahmad is asking, how do you bring up the command line? It comes up automatically. So on this chart, if I want to change the symbol from Verizon, let's say that I want to load Apple. If I type in AAPL, notice that by pressing the keys on my keyboard, the command line shows up automatically. So you don't have to click anywhere to bring up the command line. All you need to do is press keys on the keyboard, and it should come up automatically. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and take this one step further because, yeah, this is Verizon, and we're monitoring the 2 moving averages. We're looking for it to cross over because maybe that's the symbol that we want to trade. But a lot of times, we want to use some scanning capabilities because there may be other trading candidates out there that you are probably not aware of, or something that is triggering a signal right now that you would probably be interested in, and you want to be notified for this alert. So let's show you some scanning capabilities, which will tell you when certain symbols are meeting certain criteria. And for that, I'm going to open up a new workspace right here at the bottom. So I'm going to click on the plus. Okay. Jack, you make a very good question. He's asking about desktop alerts. If you enable an alert on the desktop, will they also alert in the mobile phone version? And unfortunately, no. Right now, there is a disconnect between the desktop and the mobile app, which it's a shame. And I think it's got to do with technology compatibility, but we're working really hard to align all our platforms so when you do something on one, it gets reflected on the other. The desktop alerts are going to be very desktop related. So it means that you have to be in front of the desktop to get those alerts. There is an email alert that you can set up that can send you an email, but for the most part, if you're setting up alerts on the desktop, you're expected to be in front of it and have the desktop open. If you set up alerts on the mobile, those are separate. But the nice thing about setting up alerts on mobile is that they are server based. So you can literally be walking down the street and be alerted of something happening on your TradeStation, which I find very cool. So I want you guys to watch my mobile presentation if you're interested in that. Okay. The simple average that I'm using right now for this example, it's a simple moving average. We have exponentials, we have weighted, all those moving averages, we have them available on TradeStation, but this particular example, it's a simple moving average. I'm going to go ahead and open up Radar Screen. Radar Screen is our power horse. I call it a power horse because you can do so many things with the Radar Screen that it's sometimes it's even impressive to me. And I've been using TradeStation for over 20 years, and I think Radar Screen is one of the coolest applications instead of TradeStation. So I'm going to open it up. All right, here it is. And I'm going to populate my Radar Screen with symbols. I can do it one by one, but I'm just going to select one of the prepackaged list of symbols, data, add a symbol list. I have some, quick selections here, index components that I can click on. You can go to other symbols. If you're interested in, in industry sectors and how all the corporations are grouped by their industry, then make sure that you click on other symbol lists. We have different menus there that allow you to, select groups of symbols based on industry sectors. But I'm going to go here and select the NASDAQ 100. All right, here we go. We have all the symbols added. Here's the description. I'm going to scroll up, and we have 100 symbols of the NASDAQ 100. I'm going to remove the label here. I don't need it, so I'm going to press delete. And I'm also going to remove the index itself since I cannot trade the index. It's nice to keep track of the index value if you're monitoring the NASDAQ 100. But for this example, I'm removing it. I'm also going to resize my Radar Screen because I want to add a chart here on the right-hand side. Having two applications on one workspace is very handy, especially if it's a chart and Radar Screen, because this allows me to click on the symbols on Radar Screen and have my chart update to that symbol. So now I have the chart here on the right. I'm going to click on these linking buttons. The S is for symbol. So I'm going to click on that S and turn it green. That's the default color. And then I'm going to come here to the S and turn this green as well. So take a look at the symbol here on my chart, NDX.X, right? If I click on, let's say, I don't know, Comcast, CMCSA, and I click over and I come over here to the chart, you can see that Comcast gets uploaded here in my chart. So it becomes a very useful tool when you link windows together and makes your platform a little bit more efficient because a change in one application sends that symbol change across your workspaces. Okay, so next, I'm going to do a scan on the NASDAQ 100 and find out which ones are crossing on a moving average, simple moving average. You can use any type of study you want. I'm going to come over here to my chart and add the study here first. I'm going to go add study, moving average 2 lines right here, and click OK. I'm not going to make any changes to it. See, the two lines are almost crossing right now. But I'm gonna make this chart a daily chart. All right, so that changes the view for Comcast. And I'm also going to change the symbols here to daily. Notice that there's an interval column, which is one of the things that sets Radar Screen apart from any other quotes window out there. You know, most of the time, a quotes window allows you to keep track of a watch list, but very rarely you find a tool like this where you can have hundreds of symbols and have it scan for different alerts. That's what I'm going to do right now. But I want my scan to be applied on a daily time frame, not a 5 minutes. So how do I change the time frame? I go to the symbols and by clicking the header on the column, it highlights all the symbols. And notice that there's a time frame component or a time frame drop down. And I'm going to set these to daily. That way, I have daily on Radar Screen and I have daily on the chart, and I can compare the values, you know? Now, in here, I'm going to remove a few columns that I don't need. I don't need the net change. So I'm going to click on the header, press delete. I'm also going to highlight all these 4 columns and remove them, bid, ask, high, and low. And I'm going to come here to the plus here and add a column. And guess what column I'm going to be adding? I'm going to be adding the technical study, moving average 2 line. Right there, moving average 2 lines. I'm going to add it, and I'm going to move it down all the way at the bottom. So this indicator that I'm adding here, it's calculating the same values that I find here in my chart. So if I look at Comcast, for example, I see that I have a 45.94 and a 45.24 or 25, which are the same values that I see here. 45.94 or 95 and 45.25. So it's tracking the same values. The power in Radar Screen is that I didn't have to do that on a symbol by symbol basis. I can just apply the technical study to the 100 symbols and I get the same calculations for 100 symbols. So technically, Radar Screen is acting as a 100 individual chart analysis windows where I'm tracking the moving average 2 lines. Pretty powerful if you ask me. Now let's take this one step further. I'm gonna right click on the column header for the moving average, go to studies and edit moving average for all symbols. I'm going to enable the alert. I'm going to alert continuously, but I'm going to disable, message center notifications. I don't want to get any sounds or any pop-up windows because I'm using this for scanning. And in parentheses, it says for use when scanning for alerts in Radar Screen. So I don't want to deal with hundreds of different alerts popping up if that would be the case, you know? I'm going to click OK. And by turning on the alert, right here on the edge of my moving average, sometimes I see a red marker. That red marker represents a real-time alert. So if I look at AMD, for example, I'm clicking AMD, and I look at the chart, you can see how the 2 lines are crossing from yesterday to today. This is not a very clear, signal because we had just had a crossover 3 days ago or 2 days ago on the 14th. We had a crossover on the 14th. We had a crossover on the 15th, and then we crossed back again today. So we're getting crosses, back to back on that moving average. So it's not such a clear signal. And we may have to wait here to see how the activity develops. But let's look at the other one. Right here, we have Baker Hughes. Now, take a look at that crossover, for a long period of time, the moving averages were separated, and all of a sudden, right now in the current bar, they're crossing. Is that a trading signal for Baker Hughes? I don't know. I mean, that's up to you to interpret and analyze and see if it is. Based on the moving average calculation that's happening right here at the moment, that is, of course, a bearish signal. Now, if I want to see out of all the 100 symbols that are in the NASDAQ 100, which ones are giving me an alert, I can use this filter bar right here at the top to filter my radar screen. I'm going to come here. I'm going to filter my radar screen by the moving average. Hold on, moving average. And I'm going to say alert true. Now notice how cool this is. in a few minutes, I was able to do a scan on the NASDAQ 100 and find these 7 symbols that are crossing right now. Maybe symbols that I didn't know were triggering signals on the moving average. Here we have Meta crossing right now. Here we have, AMD. I think we talked about that already. We have Intel also giving us an alert on the moving averages. And of course, this is something you can do on any technical idea, not only on the ones that come supplied with TradeStation, but also anything that you can customize and create on your own. So the possibilities here are pretty much endless when it comes to customizing TradeStation. So that's Radar Screen, very powerful. So make sure that you explore and practice on Radar Screen when you get a chance. I'm sure that you guys will enjoy that. Okay, let me show you some trading functionality and how you can monitor orders and positions. Let me open up a new workspace. If you notice here on the bottom right, I'm getting an alert on Verizon. See how we had set up an alert on at 3328? So I am getting an audible alert. I'm not sure if you hear the sound, if it's coming through Zoom, but I'm hearing the things, on my trade session. Every time that it happens, I get alerted. So if I come over here to my chart, let me change this to a 5-minute, where we were. On a 5-minute, this is exactly what was happening. Remember that we set the horizontal line at 3328, and now it's giving us an alert. It's touching it right now. Pretty cool, huh? Let me go ahead and turn that off, because if not, it's going to keep on bombarding us with those little alerts on the bottom right. Okay, so let's go here. And well, first of all, everyone has a trade bar right here at the top, which is very intuitive in terms of you know where to put in the symbol, you know where to put in the price, because all the boxes are pretty labeled, and you know how to submit a trade. Let's do Verizon, for example. Let's say that we wanted to trade 1,000 shares, and right now it's trading at 33.26. It triggered our alert. Let's say that we want to buy this at one tick lower at 33.25. I'm a buyer, so I'm going to send that order to buy. And that order, not sure if you see that information bar right here on the trade bar, says received. By the way, if you like trading on the trade bar and you wanna have it fixed at the top without it going away, just click on the push pin right here. There's an auto hide. So that way, if I move away from my trade bar, it stays there. Sometimes some traders enjoy trading right here on the trade bar. On my position graph bar, let me go ahead and pin that as well here to the top. The position graph bar gives you positions that are open in my account, and it gives me a graph representing real-time P&L. It's a shared graph. So I see a lot of red here and very little green here. So this position over here on the left, it's comparing its P&L to the actual P&L of the other positions. That's why it's called a shared scale. And I'm losing more than when I'm winning here. That's a good way of looking at your positions, because a lot of times, we look, this is making, what is this making? So open P&L, $430. Okay, this is making $430. Yeah, but notice the Disney position is losing 2,000. So in comparison, that's a larger loss than what this is a winning, So let's go ahead and get rid of this position. Notice that I can quickly right click on this Disney position, and I can say close this now at market intelligent. So very quickly, you can react to anything that's happening in your positions right here from the position graph bar, which I find very useful. This is a JP Morgan put that I had purchased some days ago. Let me go ahead and close that as well before it expired. And I'm left off with my spider position. I'm short spider, 100 shares, and this is making me $131 as we speak, okay? We already submitted that order for Verizon. Where do we see it, Because right now, this was replaced already. I'm going to go to the apps menu and open up what's called the trade manager. The trade manager will give you access to anything that happens on your trading. So let's go ahead and position it here. Order filled. And I'm going to resize it. I just got filled on Verizon. I'm not sure if you noticed. So I have 1,000 shares. The average price is 33.25. That was my fill price. But here on the trade manager is where you find your orders. As soon as you open up the trade manager, the default tab is going to be the orders, and you can see a sequence of orders for today. Notice that my Disney, I filled my Disney. Well, that was the 9th of August. Disney was filled right here. It's showing me the entry, but it's showing me the exit. So my entry was at 88.52, but my exit was at 86.51. That's why we lost about $2,000 on that trade. But you can see all the other orders that I submitted, my JP Morgan put, and I also have my Verizon order right here, which got filled at 33.25. So here, yes, you see a history of every single order that was submitted. By the way, they're going to be color coded based on status. Blue is going to be filled, and yellow is going to be canceled. So any order that I submit here is going to show up very nicely in here. If I go to my futures, for example, and I type in let me do a futures example. Right now we're in August, so ESU 23. I get some real-time quotes in here. The last traded price is 44.58. Let's suppose that we want to trade this at 44.50. If it drops to 44.50, I put in my price and I buy one contract. Notice that my order shows up right there in the orders tab automatically, and that's my limit price at 44.50. From here, I can right click and I can do all sorts of cancel replace. So if I want to cancel and replace it with a new limit price, let's say that I want to buy it at 44.52 instead. I click it here, and then my new limit price is 44.52. So there's a lot of functionality on the right click menu. So make sure that you explore that and see if you can use any of those features. In addition to the orders tab, we also have access to the positions tab. So if I go to positions, I see everything that is working on my account. I see my Verizon and my Spider positions. I also see my flat positions. I see my flat positions because I elected to see my flat positions. So I know that I had a JP Morgan put and I had a Disney position. Right now they're flat because I exited them, but they're still in my history of flat positions. If you like to see flat positions in your trade manager, that's something you do here in settings, and you go to I think it's window, settings window, general tab. No, where do I see that? Settings, maybe preferences. Okay, there we go. Settings, preferences. On the positions tab, I have a checkbox here for show flat positions, which I checked, and that's why I see those two positions that I exited. If you want to do that, okay. So that's the trade manager, your control center for all your trading, and access to the position graph bar. I have a few minutes here also where I'm going to show you some trading functionality on the Matrix. Matrix is one of the windows or one of the applications that we provide here on TradeStation. The style is what people sometimes call a ladder or a dome. Those are kind of the same thing. It provides you information about other buyers and sellers and what they're doing on this particular market based on their orders to buy and their orders to sell. So this is Verizon. Let me switch the symbol to something that I don't own. Let me go to Bank of America. Again, changing the symbol. You do it the same way that you do it in charting. You type it in, hit enter, works great. So here, Bank of America is trading at 29.52. That's where you see the current trading price. And what I was talking about, all the additional orders waiting to get filled. Anybody that sends an order to buy Bank of America is going to be shown right here on the blue. And anybody that sends an order to sell Bank of America is going to be right here on the red. So you get a glimpse of all the orders that are sitting, waiting to get filled at each one of those prices. So if we scroll up here, we can see that, there's a big selling interest right here at 29.69. We have about 5,400 shares being sold at 29.69. Here's one at 29.65 with 15,000 shares being sold at that level. The same happens here on the buy side. You can buy these big numbers like here at 29.43. We have a group of 21,000 shares waiting to get filled at 21.49. So if you were to submit an order and you would want to buy Bank of America at 29.43, this would mean that you would be behind all these 21,000 shares waiting to get filled at that price. So it gives you a little bit of information about what other buyers and sellers are doing. Okay, not information that is completely transparent, because as a trader, you also have the ability to hide certain aspects of your order. You have the ability to hide the size. If you want your order not to show, you have that ability as well. But for the most part, people just submit an order, and that's what you see here. This is called level 2 or market depth. You see what everyone is doing in the market for Bank of America. Over here on the right, you see traded volume. So as of now, you can see the price that's been traded the most is right here, 29.75, with almost 1 million shares traded at that level with 828,000. Okay, so in here, I'm going to show you a very nice way to submit an all-inclusive trade. And I call an all-inclusive trade a trade that you've thought out and that you've planned. You have an entry with your exits. So I'm looking at Bank of America. I know that the lowest price traded today is 29.49. Let's suppose that I'm waiting for a lower price, 29.48. Although it seems like Bank of America in this case has been pushing the prices down. But if it comes lower than 29.49 or it breaks that low, I'm going to be a buyer at 29.48. But in addition to being a buyer at 29.48, I also want to set a target and a stop. I'm going to be trading 100 shares. So I'm going to set a target of $200, which is a 20-cent movement. So if I buy Bank of America at 29.48, and I want to make a $200 target, Bank of America would have to move 20 cents if I'm trading 1,000 shares, right? It's going to push through 29.48 while I'm talking about this trade, which is okay. I'll just pick, the price that is lower than the low. Right now it's 29.47. But yeah, I'm looking for a target of 20 cents. And let's say, for example, that I'm okay with a stop of 100. Maybe I've done my analysis. I've looked at the ATR. I know, the risk involved. So I want to do a 2-to-1 ratio when it comes to risk reward. So if I'm shooting for a $200 target, maybe I want to do a $100 stop. If I'm trading 1,000 shares, then I do know that would be a 10-cent movement per share. So with all that information in mind, I'm ready to put in my trade with my entry price, my target, and my stop. How do I do that all in one trade? Well, first of all, I need to set my target and my stop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little checkbox that says attach OSO. If you're not familiar with OSO, this is order sense order. And what we're trying to do here is have a primary order, which will buy the 1,000 shares of Bank of America. And that entry will send my exits, one at 20 cents higher, and the other one, I'm losing my voice a little bit, one at 20 cents higher and the other at 10 cents lower. So I'm going to come here to this drop down, and I'm going to select the bracket that I need, which is the very top one. One limit, one stop. That's what the abbreviations stand for. Exit, bracket, one limit, one stop. That's all that it means. I'm going to come here to the ellipsis to format it. And here very nicely, I have a price offset amount that I have to supply. For my limit, I just want a 20-cent offset. And for my stop, I want a 10-cent offset. Why do we work with offsets? Because we don't know the entry price yet. And that's why it says offset here. It's not until I submit my buy order that my OSO knows, okay, 20 cents from your entry is going to be exactly this price. So you have to enter the offsets in here. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm ready. So I want to break the lower low of 29.47. So I'm going to submit my trade right here at 29.46. Okay, let's do that. I find the price 29.46. I hover over the blue because I'm a buyer. If I were a seller, or if I would be selling short shares of Bank of America, I would go here to the red. But since I'm buying, I'm going to go here to the level of 29.46, hover over the blue. I'm going to join that group of 9,000 shares. My order still says 500 though, so let's submit, change the quantity here to 1,000. I did say that I was going to buy 1,000 shares. Okay, so that's 1,000 at 29.46. I click, and there we go. I didn't get confirmations because I have those disabled, but confirmations are great. For my classes, I usually just disable them because I want to have something quick and not have to deal with confirmations all over every single time. But confirmations does give you a time to check your order, double check that your price, your order type, everything is good before you submit the trade. But here, my blue box here is my box to enter for 1,000 shares at 29.46. You can monitor that box in relationship to what's happening here in the matrix. Here, this darker box that says 1,000, that's my target, 29.66. Notice that it's 20 cents higher than my entry. And my stop is right here at 29.36, which is 10 cents lower. But this is an all-inclusive trade, meaning that TradeStation will take care of it. I've already calculated my risk. I've already calculated my target, and the trade is there. I can go on to something else. In fact, any trades you submit through the TradeStation matrix, all those orders are automatically on the server. So you don't have to keep your TradeStation open. I can shut down and be assured that TradeStation has those orders on the server, and they'll be filled based on what Bank of America is doing. As soon as it breaks that lower low of 29.47, I should be the buyer of 1,000 shares, and I'm going to have a profit target 20 cents higher and a stop loss 10 cents higher. So take a look at the OSO, OCO functionality, because I'm sure you're going to find a lot of use in there. There's a lot of videos that talk about OCO, OSO. So if I were you and you want to learn more about OCO, OSO, you find this fascinating, which I do find it fascinating, then go to the TradeStation YouTube channel and do a search on OCO, OSO, and you'll find different presentations that I've done on this functionality that I'm sure everyone will enjoy. So today we did do a very high-level presentation on the TradeStation desktop. If you remember, we talked about charting, we talked about drawing tools and studies, and how to set up alerts on them. We did a little bit of scanning on radar screen, being able to add a technical idea and have it rank or filter your list of symbols based on an alert. That was really nice. And at the very end right here, we talked about order entry, order management, order tracking, and I hope that you walk away with a little bit of something on the TradeStation desktop. I want to say thank you for joining me today. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful afternoon today. I'll see you next class. Thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye.